mean, hello guys. I am so deeply in this moment at the moment trying to like get really good at my Spanish. So I'm like talking to myself in Spanish. Like if I wake up in the morning, I am like describing how I feel to myself in Spanish. Anyway, that's not what today's video is about. So I have cobbled together the small footage that I had of May, and it is very, very minimal. May was a busy month for me. It was my birthday in May. I had a friend come and stay with me, and then I went to London, and then my mum and brother came to stay with me. And after that, I was just burnt out and tired, and I was just like, I need rest. It also meant that I just didn't read a lot. So I read 6 books in May, which is the lowest amount of books that I have read in a month so far. And just for context, I think I'm halfway through June filming this, terrible, and I think I've read 6 books already. So like that's a bit of context for you, but none of that is like, you know, it doesn't matter to me. But because the video is so small, I was like, let me just talk about the books because I can afford to do that. So why is it? I read 6 books. It says I've rated 5 of them. So the average rating for May was 3.2 stars. The book that I rated 2 stars is River Spirit by Leila Aboulela. I believe I've already spoken about this book, and I have in my Jalak Prize video. So I will direct you to that video here or there, right? I feel like I need to sit up a little bit because you're just not really getting enough in my head. Listen, if I hadn't read that book, I wouldn't have been sad. But I think sometimes when you're reading a book and like you're not enjoying it, I'm saying this because I've had a couple of books recently that I've just been like, what is this? They can annoy you, and therefore you read it and you're like quite frustrated by it. And that for me is the case with the book Boy Pass by Eliza Clark. The book is pissing me off, so I just stopped reading it because I was like, there's no point in me reading this book all the way through only to give it like 1 or 2 stars. Like, I'm not gonna read it. This wasn't annoying me. I just kind of was like, it didn't blow me away or anything. I didn't find it that interesting, but like her writing is really nice, and I guess like the different characters and the sort of history of the country and the history that it was weaving within the story was quite interesting to me, that I wanted to find out a little bit more. But overall, I was like, this book was not that great to me. So then the books I gave 3 stars was an audiobook from Agatha Christie. So that is the Sittaford mystery. That I quite like this one. It was set. It's so funny because I realised who did it maybe halfway through, because again it was one of those where it's so impossible that it has to be. You know, but as with Agatha Christie's, it's more about like how did they do it, because you can figure out sometimes like who the murderer is by, I guess, knowing like the formulas of kind of like whodunits, to be honest, right? But you're never going to know exactly like how they did it until they do the big reveal. So I found that one to be quite interesting. It had a lot of different side stories as well, why you kind of, so it's basically about a man who gets murdered. There's these 2 women, a mum and a daughter, who've moved into a house, and everyone's just like, why would they move into this house in the middle of winter? So random. Like, why would they want the house? So random. And then they keep inviting people around, and one time they have people around and they host I don't know, it's a seance? They have the Ouija board, and the Ouija board basically spells out that someone is dead in like the next town over, and it's this one of the guys at the party. He usually goes and visits this guy on Friday. So he's like, I'll go and visit the man. Well, like, whatever, cool. And that is the man that ends up dead. So obviously it's a story about that. It's like, is it these 2 women? Like, why have they suddenly come to this town? All of that. Had all the right plots, had all the right making for a Agatha Christie and a whodunit, and it was thoroughly enjoyable. The other book I read was Nightbloom by Adzo Medie. This was longlisted, I believe, for the Women's Prize for Fiction. I decided not to read the entirety of that prize, but I wanted to read this book because I've read the author's debut novel, and I wasn't a huge fan of it, so I wanted to see what this book would be like. This book was, for me, much better than her debut. This is about 2 cousins who grow up in Ghana, and it, you know, and the first half focuses on one of the cousins, and then the second bit focuses on the other cousins. I think this book could have been like so much better because it deals with like so many different topics. When it gets to the end, I'm like, I wish the ending had more time dedicated to it. You know, even if the book was longer, it would have been fine. But what I liked about this book is we see the lives of these girls, and we see the situations that these girls go through like 2 different sides basically. And it is always that thing, you know, when you're in real life and something happens, you're just like, I don't see how she can see this, and you only see it through your view, and it's only through like talking to other people that perhaps you might see someone else's view. And like with books, it's always so easy to see how one event can be interpreted like so differently and felt so differently by other people. And yeah, I mean, this book deals with a lot of themes that I'm not really going to get into because it's not a book review video, but yeah, I thought it was 3-star worthy. It was a good book, and much better than her debut. And so then there are 2 books that I gave 5 stars. One was a poetry collection called Bright Fear. I actually read it twice. Oh, that's why it's down as 6 books, but 5 reviews, because I read Bright Fear twice. I liked it so much. Again, this was a book that I read for the Jalak Prize, and I'll direct you again to, well, this is not the same video, I'll direct you to the video where I spoke about how I wasn't actually sure if I was going to get this poetry collection because I didn't think I would like it based on the blurb about the collection. I loved it so much. I actually love it so much that I requested her first collection from the library. So yes, I'm looking forward to reading this. I haven't read it yet, so there's that. But the poetry collection focuses on the topics of the COVID-19 pandemic, queerness, being bilingual, maybe multilingual actually in her case, like parental relationships, love, acceptance. I already mentioned being queer, so I'm going to say that those are the main themes. And I just thought her writing was beautiful, incredibly accessible, incredibly heartfelt. She has 3 poems that are called EDI, which is Equality, Diversity and Inclusion. And I just liked the kind of how different those poems were. But I guess when you're a minority, you fit in the EDI category. Like, you feel it, you know, when you see people writing about these things, you know that you've had those experiences too. So I don't know, in some way it makes it all kind of the more powerful sometimes. And then the final book that I rated 5 stars was Imago by Octavia E. Butler. This is number 3 in the Liliths. I don't know why I can't say that, but it's Lilith, plural, brood. But I believe the original, when it was like originally written, is like the Exogenesis trilogy. So I think the first one I rated 4 stars, the second 3, and this one 5. I couldn't even do justice to the description of this book. But Octavia E. Butler's writing is just something that I have not experienced, especially for a genre in which I still claim to not be a big reader, in which I'm not. But I think my claim has always been, my reservation of talking about science fiction has always been like, I'm not someone that I feel like likes science fiction, but now I think I can confidently say I do. There are a lot of obviously science fiction books that will fall into the golden age of science fiction, which I will not be judging, but there are just gems like her. To write a character that centers a black woman at the core of the book, but then to talk about so many of the different aspects of like life, cloning, breeding, creating like groups, species, continuing human life in the way that she does, and make it so accessible, but make it just, I don't know, just seem like this natural evolution of like human life. Is phenomenal. I feel like she makes science fiction so accessible and so enjoyable, because to me it feels like you're just looking at not a next stage of us, but it just, I don't know how else to explain it other than she makes it incredibly accessible, that there's not all this tons of annoying world building that you're just like, I don't really understand what this is. It's just so incredibly accessible, and I just think it's just written on this like platform where it just feels like a very human level. Like if you are open-minded to the fact that life can be different than what you have been told, I feel like you would just enjoy her books. And that is all from me on the month of May. So yes, June has been like in full swing in terms of book reading. I've gotten back to, I guess, the flow of books that I like in terms of like how much I like reading, right? But May I just didn't have that capacity. But thank you for watching this video. And if you have read any of the books that I mentioned, please let me know in the comments. But yeah, like I said, thank you for watching, and I'll speak to you in another video. Bye!